Hello everyone, I'm happy to greet everyone in our today's stream. Today we have a long-awaited stream with Master Toma. He is the founder of ElmoreLab project. Today we will focus more on the Chronicles themselves, on the upgrade, and we will try to understand what we have to expect from the C1, how the mechanics work.
And the main question is, which class to pick to start playing?
The most general question concerned the client of the game. Tell me about the peculiarities of the game, about the optimization, the stabilities. Well, the fonts are peculiar, the color is peculiar, the interface is very peculiar. It doesn't look like anything like C2 or C3. It's not about the functionality. Something is really clear, so there is no map on the Alt-M. There are no macroses. How difficult will it be, in your opinion, to raise your level comparing to C4? If the rates are the same, maybe the curve is different and the required experience for level up. The curve is not different. It is different for the levels that are not relevant to us. Well, of course it'll be harder to level up. Well, that will need different equipment. The bonus of 2-3 people parties is way smaller than that of the C3. There might be some players who will get the first profession in 2-3 weeks. Well, if you play 3 hours a day in a casual play, then you can get the first profession in 3-4 days. In C1 we have a very limited map. There is no Elmore, there is no Hain, Blazing Swamp is different. There are some small differences. And it's obvious that its X1 rates, the low-level locations will be very actual. I remember in Classic version we gathered the party in Forgotten Temple or other newbie locations. Everybody was exping there, fighting for spots. So will these newbie locations be relevant, or you can solo exp there and we will be just skipping through them? I don't think there will be any full parties, but just 2-3 people will be good. The party bonuses were changed in C3. What did they do? Well, there was a line. So when you fight a mob one-on-one, you'll get an X of experience. So it's like 100 experience. So if it's 2 people, you get a 107. So every one of you will get 53.5%. So the multiplier is very low. So you feel that it's very low. 53.5 is not a big deal. But in C3 it was changed. Now, if you have 2 people in the group, it's not 100%, not 107, it's 130. So it's 30% bigger. And then it's divided by 2, so everyone gets plus 15% more. Now please tell me about the peculiarities of hunting zones in C1. So there are no X mobs and what other peculiarities it has. Well, the zones of Elmore are really empty, so the whole locations are empty. There are no mobs that NCSoft called event mobs. So in the zones of Elmore, in Dwarves, in Oryx locations, the whole locations are empty. I don't remember the name of the families of those mobs, but so if you're running around for quite a while and you don't see any mobs, well, the client doesn't have these mobs inside, so it's just physically impossible. Inside some dungeons, the spawn points are really different, and the amount of mobs, the Forgotten Temple, the spawn is different. What else? There are no half HP mobs, so Tanner Canyon, all of those half HP beehive mobs, they are absent. And all the spawn points of all the mobs is different in Antares' lair. So, well, I think we need to mention it because the high levels, no matter how much of them will go there, they will be a little bit surprised because the spawn is very, very long, but there are a lot of mobs. So some of them are falling from the sky, so you kill all of them and then you just wait. and the blazing swamp, you know, the burning tree not far from Adam, they're not 75, it's just a 58. Now, will we fix the AI of the mobs that cannot pass the obstacles? Yes, we will do this, because I think, yeah, I agree with you, because this is abusive when you see that the mob cannot pass the obstacle, so you just hit the mob with the step which is higher. So we will fix it. Now, how will you implement the protection from running the second window? Will it be possible to abuse buffers on relog like on Reborn? So I start playing a character, I put him on offline trade, and then I relog with another character and buff him. And where are you gonna do this? Because the offline trade is available only in Peaceful Zone. So you go there, then you got a relogged buffer, then you buff, and then again you go to the spot, and everything about it is like 5 minutes, and the relogged buffer does not regenerate any MP. Now some questions about the clickers. Well, a person who saves some money to get a good chair or the good mouse and it's comfortable for him to play, than a guy who has a coffee table and a laptop. We will not ban a person with a cool chair. Well, you can bind a lot of things on your mouse. Another question is how you will find it. Well, we do find it. We look at the logs, we look at people. Well, it is not a correct question. If the person is clicking Soulshots with the mouse, it's okay. Well, whoever plays on C4, you probably notice that the bots do not deliver the Manor. Even though there are a lot of people who try to write some scripts, but, well, we have the protection for that. Well, you can use the possibilities of your mouse to create some clicker for example, Soulshots. It's possible. If there are some player killers who go to newbie locations and kill the newbies, will you get involved? Well, let me explain the situation. On the start of this server in C1, C2, C3, just because we had a very low online and because we had a very big experience, well, we knew what it comes to, so the tops get boring and they go to newbie locations and go and PK. But now we know that the PK is okay, but if it's extermination, I mean on purpose, and you can see that it's on purpose, well, I think we get involved. Well, we did not ban anyone for that, I just threatened to ban and it helped, and then the online grew and the server became mature, and in all of the spots we have PKs, but we removed that rule. What will happen in C1 I don't know, but we don't want to do this. Well, we don't want some no-lifers to come and exterminate the noobs on the server where it's difficult to exp, but you can see Papa Teresa actually says that in Primo Guide some GMs stepped in. Yeah, I also read some interview in Korean, they really stepped in. Well, our aim is for the server to grow, so we don't want to step in. But in some situation, when online is 200 people and there will be 3 PK, there will be just killing everyone, well, we will talk to them at least. In my Telegram chat, from time to time, I publish the stories, well, translations of stories of Korean members of beta tests of 2002. Well, there you can hear that all no great weapons and equipment were very, very valuable. So people were wondering how to save 600,000 Zadena or 18,000 for teleport is expensive. So what do you think? What will be in C1? Will all the no great weapons and armor be relevant? And will we be able to see people craft devotions and the composition bows, or the NG will be skippable sort of, and people will just be choosing the top NG and that's it. I do not exclude that some single objects will be crafted, for example some low D grade, for example helmet. They do not need some crystals to craft it, but when you break it, it'll give you some crystals. That's sort of a life hack. One of the top comments under my videos, even under my lore videos, is that they remember using Soulshots manually. So tell me please something about the Soulshots. Since which grade of weapon you can use the Soulshots? And is it rational to use them in the PvE or just the PvP like it was in the Classics or in C1? Are you planning to add some automatic usage of Soulshots? I guess a normal player will not have enough money for that. Not the people who get into the game like into their work. If it's like a 3 supports and a 1 damage dealer, and probably he will have enough money. But a normal player will never get enough money to just use them. And people will need to buy some more consumables. It's not that people will never use Soulshots in PvE. It's like to last hit or probably to some special mobs. But what if you see people use the Soulshots automatically, regular basis? Will you be adding the command into .menu, or people will just wait for C3? Well, maybe we will add it if it's the problem there, but we will solve it anyway. In 2 months, the problem will be absent. What about the maximum level and where you can learn some skills for warriors or mages? The maximum level is 75, but it'll be very difficult for the mages to get it because all the skills finish at like 56, 58. Yeah, something like this. Well, if the physical classes can do something, then mages, well, where you have the difference in 8 levels, we will just miss the target. There are no special abilities, there are no tattoos, no Avedon shields. You can get a B armor, but you can't get a B set. Yeah, but the sets cannot be made from them. So you can get a Doom set, but the bonuses will be absent. And this will actually affect the equipment. All the mages will be in Carmian, so there will be an easy target for the archers. There is no effect of Vampire Rage. It means that destroyers will not get too much, even at C2. The physical classes will be hard to exp, but the guys who can actually take some hit, and well, not the guys who will be always healing themselves. Well, there are no raid bosses that will drop some items. You will craft it. But for the guys who want to craft something, there are no craft books. The advantage is you do not consume the recipe. So if you want to play for long and if you want to get to the top, I will advise you to craft on C1, because at C2 it'll be much more difficult. If you're planning to play here for long, I think it is best to think of the daggers, which will be really rare. For example, Demon Sword. On a C2, you can insert some SA of critical damage. Now, what about the enchantment? Will there be any limitations? Are the chances different to enchant the weapon and the armor? Well, it's the same. Now, how hard it will be to get an enchantment scroll, because there are no chests. Yeah, there are no chests. If it's difficult or not, the spoiler, the bounty hunter, will be very good there. Well, the thing is, in C1 there is less drop, the less chance. Papa Teresa is asking, is there any limitation on the server for the enchantment? No, there is no limit. So theoretically, you can enchant it to plus 30. Yes, you can. About the armor and about the jewelry, there is a limitation because the chance will get lower, lower and lower, and at the end they will come to 0. Well, people know that there are no RBs, raid bosses, as we are used to them. Well, there are some event mobs which have a lot of HP, maybe something like we have on Essence, you know, like single RBs. and you can kill them in just half a party. So tell me please something about the RBs, about the C1, and is it relevant to farm them? RB, as people are used to them, are absent, but there are a lot of interesting and charismatic mini bosses. For example, the Panther or some zombie, there are a lot of them. And they are a little tougher than regular mobs, and very often they have some guards. Well, probably it's like an X4 HP, and they have the larger drop than regulars, and well, of course it's not comparable to the regular RBs, and you can kite them. If you just want to go there and kill it, I think 2 people is not enough. Well, if you want to just bother with it, probably even die to kite, well, probably 2 people is enough. What about the drop? Does it have any full equipment? Well, yeah, it has some full equipment, but the chances are like an X4. Yeah, it's actually worth mentioning that they are actually aggressive, because I remember some of those guys following me and it was really hard to run away from them. Yeah, that can be really unexpected for some people. Yes, they are aggressive. What else? Well, except for RBs, there are some epics, and Queen, Orphan, Core, Antares, but you can't drop jewelry from them. It's like from C4. And will it be relevant if some clan will have a goal and farm those RBs, or probably the reward is irrelevant? Well, it can be decided by the market, because if the market will be full of them, I think it's just better to farm some Adana and buy it. And there is no Manor on C1, it'll appear in C2, and it'll be with fixes. By fixes, I mean that the minimal and the maximal limit will be implied, so that no one will abuse it. The rate of Manor will be X1, about the drop and about the harvest. And also the Manor has the rate on the amount of fruit, and probably we will be rating or diminishing the amount of fruit that you will need to deliver in one day and sell it, because it depends on the online of the server. Because if it's low, then the Manor cannot be left as it is, because it'll be abused. And like I said in the Focus Deaths videos, the market will crash. Now, what's your opinion on the quests on C1X1? All the quests will be relevant, or maybe there will be some relevant and the most will be not? And will there be some differences from C4? I think the majority of all quests will be relevant. And look, the quests in Lineage 2 are different from quests in World of Warcraft, because in Lineage the quests are like additional bonus for your exping. Maybe that'll pay off your Soulshots. Not all the quests will give you loads of money. Maybe they will give you just low Adana and you will be exping anyway, you will be killing mobs. The quests will be different. Not only the reward will be different, it's like not only the amount, but most of all it's the mechanics of getting the amount of Adana, because there are some quests where the reward depends on the amount of items that you brought. So 10 is 10 coins, 100 is 100 coins, and so it doesn't depend on when exactly you give it in. So you see that the more you bring, the more you get. Or probably you get a little less, so the more you bring, the less you get. But the third option, when the more you bring, the less you get for each item, it was implied in C2 or C3 as a fight with bots, because a bot can spend days killing the same mobs, but a player can give in the items more often getting to the town. So a player will get more bonuses if he gives in the items more often. And you told that the quests themselves are a little different. For example, for first profession, yeah, you need to take it into account. Some locations are different. For example, yeah, be ready to read the information, read the dialogues. For example, for professional wizard, you don't need to kill spiders, but Redmans. Quest mobs are in wrong locations, and the chest in Kruma is in different location. A lizard man in the wastelands is in the wrong location. Many other small changes too. For example, Orcs quests. I wanted to talk about the system of the pets. What's the difference between a C1 and a C4? The time of death. Yeah, that's the main thing that you need to learn. The time of death. C4 is 20 minutes, C1 is 3 minutes. So if you do not resurrect the dragon, or what do we have there? Oh, do we have anyone else? Yeah, we have dragons and we have wolves. So if you do not resurrect them in 3 minutes, the pet will be deleted together with all the items. I think we should get to the most interesting part for the players. Is at first we need to figure out which stats affect what and what the differences are between C1 and later updates. Yeah, this is a serious topic because the game on C1 is really different from C4. I think for some people it can be a shock because in C2 all the stats that are responsible for some resists were changed. I must say that on C2 everything was simplified because wit is responsible for all the debuffs. On C1 it was a variety and it all made sense. For example, if you wanted to be resistant to poison, you need a high constitution, and again it makes sense. And for example, some brain manipulations, well, you need to be resistant using your intelligence. And there was a big variety of the stats. Well, what else? And now about the skills. For example, vicious stance, like toggle one that eats your MP. Well, it didn't exist in C1, and no warrior had it. Also about those automatic skills that were enabled when your HP drops to some level. C1 doesn't have it. Summoners don't have the cubics. Now, is it possible to renew the debuffs before they actually drop? For example, you stun a person and then until it just finishes working, you just stun it again, and is it possible? Well, everything you say about is good for sleep and probably for root. I think it's root. Actually, on C4 you can do the permanent stun too. What did they do on the C2? They actually raised the chance of stopping the stun. C1 stun is just longer, it's 9 seconds, and the chance to stop it is very low. So you can stun a person, hit a person, and he will not actually stop the stun. On a C2 they raised the chance of stopping the stun, but you can stun the stunned person. On C1 you have a permanent sleep and permanent root. All the poisons and all the flames, they just do not stop the sleep. The strength bonus is lower. Yes, bonuses from strength, which are very important for every physical class, but the most relevant it is for the daggers. In C2 it was raised dramatically, and there is no limit to the crit rate. Yeah, the limit to the crit rate, well, there are not so many mechanisms to raise the crit rate, but actually, like in C4, but they limited the crit rate only at C3, when they added the weapon special ability on focus. Well, even though the daggers are not very good, because there is no vampire rage, and there is no special ability for weapon, but it makes sense to think of having some dagger just for C2, because on C2, they're gonna have the critical damage of SA, the vicious stance that will hit you not looking at your armor. There are also no magic criticals, yeah? Yeah, magic criticals appeared on C2. C1, there are none. Also, there are no overhits for mages. Yeah, no overhits. Cancel is imbalanced. We talked about it. C1 has the toughest cancel of all. Mages do not have many skills. In C2, mages were buffed very much. Everybody got like 3-4 new skills. It says that in C1 all the mages have very limited functionality, and it automatically raises the abilities of the other classes. All the summoners were given cubics. Bishops were given the benediction. That's the kind of skill where you have lower than 10% of HP. The bishop can heal everyone. Yeah, so actually they don't have it in C1. All the solar sparks are absent. Sword singers and blade dancers do not have a bunch of songs and dances. There is no song for HP, no PDEF song. Orcs were improved. They were given the passive ability for two-handed weapons. Tyrants were given the 2 totems. Overlord was given some more buffs, and the shield, the toggle shield that consumes MP and gives you the PDEF. Overlord in C2 finally can buff something. So Overlord was given the Windwalk. Warcriers are very weak on C1, so it doesn't have a 1/3 of all the buffs. Whoever wants to play as the Warcrier, please make sure you know what skills he has. And I think we need to mention again that the crafters do not have the book of recipes. Yeah, there is no book of recipes. You cannot sit and craft like in the later updates. Yeah, everything of it appeared in C2. The recipe book, well, it's good because it's very comfortable. Yeah, when you have it, it is really comfortable. So if you want to craft some Soulshots or like 1,000 of items like a corsebone powder, you just click on the recipe like 1,000 times. You just do a lot of movements, more than usual. But what is the positive thing about not having the recipe book? That a crafter can learn all the recipes it has. And also, when you learn a recipe, the recipe is not consumed. It's very important for B weapons. All of that means that you need to give all the resources to the dwarf so that he can craft something. And there is nothing like you click and you craft. Warlords and destroyers do not have any limits to the amount of targets. No, there are no limits. Fake death is 100%. Silent move does not reduce the speed. Also, why archers and daggers were so good? Well, that's because buff for accuracy were absolutely insane. It was like a +6 or +8. It was really powerful. They say it's even +10, and I think I can believe it. I know there is no Vampiric Rage, but does a Phantom Summoner have the passive Vampiric? No, because the Phantom Summoner doesn't have that summon. Yeah, the Summoners do not have the half of summons. There were no Unicorns, there were no Solaces, and there is no passive Vampiric because there is no conception of Vampiric in C1. So there is physically no Vampiric that heals you after some physical damage. We need to say that in the store there is no potion of Ecumen. Yeah, it appeared only maybe in C3, but for the warriors there is the potion of alacrity. What buffs doesn't a Warcrier have? There is no chant of Eagle, Revenge, Predator, Vampire, so there are 4 buffs that are absent. He doesn't have a lot of buffs. Everybody, thank you for coming here to the stream. Big thanks to Master Toma. It was meaningful guide for C1. Yeah, big thanks to you too. The server is for you, gamers. As long as you have that community, it makes sense to run that server.